Hello, good evening and welcome to Open Your Mind Radio. You have myself, Alan James.
And you have myself, Stephen George. A very good evening.
Good evening. It's Sunday the 8th of June 2014 and I was expecting to see major hailstones, as that was the prediction that we were told about that would happen over the weekend. Now, we had severe rain today. We've seen it, but I don't know. There's no hailstones over here. I don't know about the UK. Have you heard anything, Steve?
No, but as I was talking to you there this morning, I mean, yeah, there was rain, and as I said to Alan while I was having a conversation with him, it wasn't regular rain, it was like super rain. It was like somebody actually cut the belly of a cloud and all the water just fell to the ground. It was amazing, but no hailstones.
No hailstones, okay, no worries. Okay, before we crack on, let's find out what the communication channels are.
Okay, Mary, communication channels, please.
The communication channels are email info@oymireland.com, by phone 046 927 1212, and you can also contact us direct through the OYM chat room.
Thank you, Mary. 0469271212 is the magic phone number. You can, if you're going to ring in from outside the Republic of Ireland, it's going to be 00353 469271212. We're also going to be monitoring the OYM chat room as well. If you have any questions for our guests this evening or for ourselves during the show, you can pop them in there. Again, if you log on to OYMradio.com, you will see the live chat button on the left hand side. Click on that and log in and register and be part of the winning team. Now, how about that?
Good man, great Steve. Okay, our guests on the show tonight are Dr. Dean Lloyd and Am Rosen. Now, Dr. Dean Lloyd and Am Rosen are regulars on the United We Strike Radio Marathon, and we've asked them to come on the show because if you remember a few weeks ago, I got into a major debate with a certain lady regarding cannabis and hemp and the dangers of it and everything else going around it, and I thought, you know what, we really need to get some experts on to talk about this, to tell us really what's going on with it. And so we've asked Dr. Dean Lloyd and Am Rosen to come on and clarify a good few questions that we have regarding it. And because, as you all know, around the world it's beginning to be legalised. And there's so many medical benefits. Now, my interest would be obviously in the medical side, to legalise it for medical benefits, curing cancer and everything else. But we also need to clarify certain things like CBD and THC and the tie-in with that and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to be bringing them in about 10 minutes. But as usual, we have a few things to talk about. Now, as you've probably seen if you're on the front page of OYM, the CBD chocolate has arrived. It arrived during the week. So I got my small bar and Steve got his small bar. And it was like Willy Wonka's golden ticket with a golden chocolate bar. It was small, but we were kind of dividing it up and letting people have a taste of it. Now, as you know, Dr. Rima has a website selling the CBD chocolate, and we ordered it in just to test it, see what it's like, and give it to a few people that we know and let them have a taste, see what they think. And everybody liked it. They just said it tastes like dark chocolate. And that's really it. But there was one person that we did give it to who said that she kind of felt that she had a boost from it. Now, she doesn't know whether this was kind of like a coincidence. But we did speak to Dr. Rima about it, and we asked her, would that be a possibility even after taking a small piece of chocolate? And she said, well, the whole idea, with the chocolate and with what's in it, the CBD, is that it needs to, if there's something, not so much missing, but if there's something in your body that needs to be fixed, maybe that was the case. But she only has such a small bit, so I don't really know. So I suppose that what she needs to do is, buy a couple of bars, which she wants to do. And she's placed a couple of orders already, saying that if we do order again, that she'll get a couple of bars in. But it does taste nice. It came in within about a week and a half, I think, because I had to come from Chile. And I think it tasted nice. Steve, do you taste it?
I did taste it, yeah, and I'll be honest, it does actually say on the wrapper that you have to be careful when you're taking it, and you're not to operate machinery or obviously drive any motorised vehicles after using the product. Now, I don't know if that's after using a small piece or after eating the whole bar, but I same as Alan, I tried a piece as well, and it just tastes like dark chocolate. There is when I popped it in the mouth and let it melt on my tongue, and it's bitter. So I mean, it's 70% cocoa, so it's good. It's dark chocolate. It tastes like dark chocolate, but there is a small little aftertaste. Now the aftertaste, it's not unpleasant. It's a nice little aftertaste, but it just kind of lets you know that there's more in this than just cocoa. Now,
yeah.
Again, I took a piece. My wife took a piece. It's recommended not to give it to children, so both Alan and I are family men. We didn't
give it to the kids.
Give it to the children. We didn't work on them.
No.
But no, it does actually say on it that there is all the ingredients. It tells you what's in. I don't actually have it to hand, but it gives you a full breakdown of what exactly is in the product. I didn't have any adverse effects or any adverse reactions to the product, other than the fact that it tasted like chocolate, and I kind of like chocolate. But that was it. I didn't feel happier. I didn't feel anything really. I didn't get a burst of energy. So that's I can't say if that is maybe a side effect or an effect of the product. It is small though. Both Alan and I were kind of surprised at the size of the bar. When they did come in, I was expecting, for anyone who remembers the big Yorkie bar, that's kind of what I had in my image in my head was of a big Yorkie bar. And if anyone remembers the old, I don't even know if you can get these anymore, a Fry's cream, is it Fry's something cream bar? I think it's made by Cadbury's. They're a small little chocolate bar, and that's kind of pretty much the size. So yeah, the size was a bit disappointing. It's it's priced as well. It's very pricey, and then with the shipping, it is expensive. So I mean, we were saying if people were to buy the product, they kind of have to really pool their resources together and buy in bulk. I think that you kind of save on the shipping that way. But yeah, there you go.
Yeah, the shipping was quite expensive. The bars itself, for what's in it, it's $40 for 2 bars, and the shipping was $54. So you'd really want to be buying quite a few to justify the cost of the shipping. But we wanted to make sure it came in, and we wanted to test it. So yeah, so that was.
So there was no problem with customs, I'm sure there wasn't.
No, it's no problem. Yeah, no, it came straight in. Now, while we're talking about this, about Dr. Rima, we'd like to kind of mention a project that we're thinking of doing with Dr. Rima, and we have her full support on this as well. We're looking to get a group of cancer patients together. Now, there will be certain criterias that we need to be looking for with people, okay? So, and I know it's going to be difficult, but the general idea of this, and we're putting it out there to our listeners and see what you think as well, let us know. But we're looking for probably about 5 cancer patients who have not touched pharmaceutical products, i.e. chemo and radiation and stuff, and maybe they've been diagnosed in a way that the hospitals or the doctors won't actually give them any treatment because they probably say there's no point doing that. I mean, my own father-in-law died of cancer, and they just basically sent him home to die, really. They said they didn't even offer him chemo and radiation. They just said there's nothing we can do. And they're the kind of people who we might be looking for. Now, I know time's not on our side, and we'd have to fundraise to get the products that we need. But ideally, the plan behind it will be to get 5 people and get the fundraising going, or get some kind of funding that we can buy the products needed, and Dr. Rima will actually do all the consultations for free and speak to the patient and all that kind of stuff, and organise a whole process of what they need to do, what product they need to take, how much they need to take, and basically go through the whole process to try and do the alternative way of healing rather than going near the actual chemo and radiation. I don't know what our listeners think of that. If you think it's a good idea, if you're, if there's anybody that you know that has cancer that might benefit from that, the fundraising is going to be the hard bit as always, because you're going to be talking about probably between $4,000 and $5,000 per patient to get the products needed for each one, and I know that's a lot of money. So whether it's feasible or not, I don't know. Whether we can do it or not, I don't know. But we'll put it out there to the universe and we'll see what happens. But the whole idea is basically to get 5 people to try and save them from dying. Basically, that's and cure their cancer. That's the general idea.
Yeah, we did actually hook up with Dr. Rima. during the week, and we had a good, it was well over an hour chat, and a kind of informal chat with her, and she was giving us, she actually gave us a checklist, and she gave us a lot of information, a lot of great information, and she did say that normally when she is doing a consult, she does have a fee, but she said this is something that if we're going to go and do what we say we're going to do, as in try and fundraise to import the products needed for a person, then she did say she will give her time free of charge, and I don't think she couldn't be any fairer than that. So we're not kind of sure what the next step is at this moment in time, because I think we're going to have to touch base with her again, but we're going to be fundraising anyway, because it is a product, not a product, but a project that we do want to get into because we feel it is important.
And the whole idea would be there would be a video diary of the 5 people, and from start to finish, basically, and then we would make a kind of documentary with it and get it up on YouTube and let people see it and see that there is an alternative out there and they can do this. And that's the general idea behind it, you know. We have a phone call straight away. Hang on a minute, we'll bring in the caller. Hello, caller, you have a question? Hello. Okay. Okay, and how do you feel after using the 2 bars of chocolate and the chewing gum? Okay. And have you done any testing? Have you gone to the doctor and got a scan and then started to take the actual products? Okay. Okay. Did you go to the doctor and get scanned before you start taking the products? Are you planning? Okay. So are you planning to go back probably in 2 or 3, 4 months' time by taking them products on a regular basis and then get scanned again to get checked? Okay. Okay. Okay, what's your name? John. Okay, John. John, will you keep us posted and let us know how you're getting on? That'd be brilliant. Keep us posted, because obviously we'd be very interested if you're going to be taking the chocolate and the chewing gum on a regular basis. We'd be very... And did you get that off Dr. Rima's website, yeah? Right, okay. And did you know about Dr. Rima's website? Oh, okay. So you ordered it when we advertised it? Oh, good man. Okay, brilliant. Well, we'd be very interested to find out how you get on. Can you keep us posted or send us an email so we have your details, and we'll keep in touch with you? Brilliant, John. Thanks a lot for calling in. Alright, bye-bye.
Well, that's very interesting.
There you go. So that's the start for 10, and we keep in touch with John and find out what's going on there. That's going to be very interesting. Well, all we need is we'll have to put it out to the universe, because, you know, we don't have the money and all we can do is ask for donations, but that's the plan of attack, and everything will be transparent. And Dr. Rima, as I say, is giving up her consultancy for free. It's just basically to buy the products that we need. But we will keep in touch with John, definitely. We'll do that. Right, let's move on, because we have 2 guests there waiting. We fly through the bits.
Waiting in the green room.
Waiting in the green room. Now, I don't know whether you heard, but there's a French minister who actually turned around there during the week, or in the last 2 weeks, and he says we are 500 days away from climate chaos. Now, I don't know. Again, some people will deem that as scaremongering. Well, if that's your belief system and you believe it to be scaremongering, well, then for you it is. For me, it's information, and for Steve, it's information. But, so, I don't know what you heard about that, the French minister saying that about 500 days. So just kind of keep an ear to the ground, and if you hear anything. I'm keeping an eye on Yellowstone as well, just out of curiosity, see what happens there. Because they're saying that that's getting a bit sensitive at the moment. But how's your week, Steve?
Well, hang on, before we get into my week, we mentioned Yellowstone about 2 weeks ago. Has there been any further developments, anything else moving over there?
Well, apparently they're letting off, there's pressure holes which the steam is coming out, and they're saying that's releasing the pressure from Yellowstone. But at the same time, they're saying that there's tremors happening more on a regular basis, a swarm of tremors which are happening, which hasn't happened before. So there's obviously a lot going on there. So it's just a case of keep an eye on things, you know.
Excellent. Okay. Anyway, excuse me. My week, and I'll keep it short. I'm just going to mention one topic, which I think has kind of really blown up all around the world. I know it has blown up all around the world, and that is in Tuam, County Galway. There was a mass grave found here recently this week in the Irish Republic. It was on a site where there was an old mother and baby home. It's dating back to between they say in the 1920s and the 1960s. But seemingly there was a mother and baby home. Anyone who's not familiar, it was back in the day when the Catholic Church ruled Ireland, and if you were a young girl and you got pregnant outside of wedlock, you would have went to one of these homes, you would have had your baby, and then you would have left the home without your baby. The baby would have been kept there, maybe for foster care or adoption. We don't really know. But seemingly back in around 1975, two young lads were climbing over a wall. They stumbled upon a stone that they moved. It was obviously covered in something. And they said that underneath the stone there was like a pit full of corpses, basically, like skeletons. So they got the fright of their life and they ran away and they never spoke a word until one day, recently, I think probably in the last couple of years, so one of the lads was in a pub having a drink and he happened to be mentioning it to a woman who turned out to be kind of an investigative journalist. As far as I can ascertain anyway, I think that's what she was. He mentioned that to her. She was interested. She took the bull by the horns. She done research on this mother and baby home, and she got all the, I think it was €4 per birth certificate, but she got all the death certificates. Sorry, she got all the death certificates from all the children, totaling I think it was 796 in total, and all the diseases that they had and why they died, basically. Sorry, the cause of death. So she's been had got her teeth into that. Now she has given an interview to say that people are saying that it was kind of a septic tank where the bodies were found. Now she said she never said that bodies were dumped in a septic tank, and that's what she's kind of been quoted as saying. But she didn't say they were dumped. She said that that's where they were found. And seemingly on one ordnance survey map of the grounds of the mother and baby home, it was originally just a kind of a grave, an unmarked grave. But then in later years there was a septic tank put there. Now the bodies got into the tank, I don't know, somehow, but there's kind of a little bit of play on words going on there at the moment. But she has done her research. The story leaked out into the media, and I believe it was raised in, I think it was the UK, the US. It was also mentioned on Al Jazeera and some other news outlet in Australia. And all the time, the story's been out there. And all the time it was kind of floating around. The Irish media were silent and the Irish government were silent. But obviously once everyone started talking about it and the dog in the street knew what was going on, at that time then the Irish media started reporting and the government decided they were going to launch a full inquiry into this atrocity and find out what happened. But word on the street from what I've heard, now again, this is just what I've heard. It's not my opinion or the opinion of OYM. But what I've heard is that when the babies were left in these mother and baby homes, big kind of pharmaceutical corporations got involved, money changed hands, and the children were experimented on with vaccines. Now, is that true? I don't know. That's just what I've heard. But it would be horrible to think that there was nearly 800 human beings, babies, between the age of, I don't know, probably a couple of weeks, couple of months old, and I think something like 2 years old, being experimented on. That
documentary confirmed what you said, because there was a documentary of Irish mothers who gave up their children and they were experimented on. That's actually on a documentary.
I must have missed.
The pharmaceutical companies were involved and they were experimenting. Yeah. So it has to be exposed. But again, the Irish government and the church, guess what?
Yeah, I mean, I'm
they
sorry.
Won't acknowledge it.
As far as I'm concerned, pharmaceutical companies, the Irish government, and the Catholic Church are and were working hand in hand. And it saddens me to say that it'll be whitewashed. There'll be a cover up, and nobody will be brought to account or brought to task for what went on. And again, it's going to be another link in the chain of unsolved mysteries in this place we call home. Anyway, how was your week?
Well, there is such thing as karma. Yeah, just very quickly, we have John Anthony Hill, Mudeeb, as some of you know, who did the 7/7 Ripple Effect DVD and was arrested and extradited over to London. You know the story. Well, Mudeeb has kindly said he'll come on the show. I don't know whether he'll be joined by Tony, but he said that he recommends for people who are more on a spiritual path. Well, it's for everybody, but especially people on the spiritual path. If you go over and read The Way Home or Face the Fire, and basically the website is http:// he recommends go over there and read that, because that's going to give you a big insight of possibly what could be coming down the line. Now, he's not, I have talked to John and Tony, and he's a very spiritual guy. I wouldn't say religion at all, because we all know about religion. He's more spiritual. And it's something that I'm going to try and download and read before I get him on. I'd prefer the hard book. I've asked him if I could have the hardback version of it, because obviously I prefer doing that rather than reading a computer screen. But if you want to get that, it's called The Way Home or FaceTheFire.net. Pop over there. It's a free download PDF, and you might find it very interesting. Now, again, very quickly, just during the week, we had one of the main PCs here in OYM kind of blow, because the substation locally got hit, and it was a drop in power. It wasn't a power outage, it was a drop in power. So one or two items in the house were working electrically fine, but other things weren't working. And cut long story short, I got the screwdriver out and the PC's back up and running.
I thought you were going to say you went down to the substation with a screwdriver.
I went and stabbed somebody. No. The PC's back up and running, but I am on the hunt for a 1 terabyte drive, or even a 500 gig drive. If anybody has one kicking about, or has a spare, I'd be happy. I'd glad to take that off your hands. That'd be fantastic. Now, okay, let's get our guests on. Right, okay. We have two guests on tonight. We have Dr. Dean Lloyd and Anne Rosen. Now, Dr. Dean Lloyd and Anne Rosen are regulars on United We Strike. They're great, brilliant information. They come on and they have the radio show on there. But I want to introduce Dean and Anne to our Irish audience on Open Your Mind. And we want to talk about hemp and marijuana and all the issues involved with that, because we kind of want to put it to bed and say this is the way it is. So I said, well, let's get two experts on who'll know about this and about addiction. So no better people than Dean and Am to come on the show and tell us all about it. So good evening, chaps. How are you doing?
Oh, good evening.
Hello, Alan.
Great stuff. Listen, guys, thanks for coming on. Much appreciated. It's a subject that we needed to address, and I thought you guys are probably the best guys to get on to talk about it, because you'll give us your direct opinion. I don't think you side either. I don't think you stand on either side. You'll just give out the information as is. And this is what we'd appreciate. But before we go in and start talking about it, let's start off with give us a bit of your background and what you cover.
All right. Well, I think I'm getting an echo. Is that okay?
You're okay this end. You're fine this end.
I'm okay on that end. All right. I'm getting funny echo in my ear. All right. This is my 30th year of professional practice, facilitating body-mind integration. On the physical side, I integrate the disciplines of naturopathy, homeopathy, Oriental medicine, craniosacral alignment, clinical nutrition, kinesiology, radiesthesia, deep tissue release, visceral manipulation. But more importantly, for 56 years now, I've been dedicated to understanding and working with consciousness. Because what you do to the body affects the mind through the emotional process, and what you do to the mind is going to have an effect on the body, no matter what you think or believe. And as I said, this is my 38th year of practice. I've worked with people from all levels of all stratas of society, all ages, from expectant mothers to very small children to people up through their 90s. And as a practitioner of the healing arts, the art, you want the best that's available in science and technology. You want to know what's there to be used, but the art is one of individual application, not adjusting people to some statistical norm, as interesting as they may sometimes be. I adjust people to the comfort level of their own unique dynamic. And part of that is a process of teaching, not just saying do this, but I want people to start to feel more clear, more secure, more able to take hold of their own biophysiology, their own nervous system, and be able to become comfortable. That's a little bit of my background. That's a nutshell that incorporates a lot of stuff, and I'd be happy to enumerate, but I know we've got a topic we want to cover today.
Exactly. Okay, and Dean, if you want to kind of give us your background.
Beautiful. And it's really great to speak to your audience, Alan. Steve, it's one area where when we talk about this particular topic, it's who do you ask, right? And well, Rosen and myself have been practicing with using a variety of different disciplines, including, in my case, Oriental medicine, where we're using cannabis in a different form. We're using the seeds, for example, and it's not smoked in China. At least it hasn't been that way traditionally. But we have a lot of benefits that are used with the seeds. And as far as my background goes, it's been part of our pharmacopoeia. We go back 2,000 plus years in Chinese medicine. But more on that later. I am a professor of Oriental medicine. I'm an author, and my book is called Accutone, where I was able to make a discovery. And the discovery was involving frequencies and the relationship of how tissues resonate to perfect frequency. And also these meridians or channels that are used in Oriental medicine, how they resonate to frequency. So we've enhanced the art. Its foundation is in Oriental medicine. But I've been teaching that since 1999. I'm a naturopath where I use homeopathy, different detoxification programs, oxygen therapies, and so on. 2 clinics. I write articles quite regularly, and I'm in what we refer to as a resource for people in the detoxification. I worked at an oncology clinic at the Livingston Medical Center, which was in California, some years ago. I moved on because I was at that point in my career where I was seeing a lot of patients, and I wasn't giving them the time that I felt that they needed. And if you're working the busy practice, the doctor practice, and you have sort of a revolving door where you're seeing one patient after the next and you only have a few minutes with them, you're not offering them a real care. So I took a different direction after doing that for a while, and now Dr. Rosen and I, we're radio show people. We love to talk. We got big mouths, both of us, and we love to cover areas that are not commonly covered and clarifying it for people as a resource. So we're all yours, Alan and Steve, so take it away.
Brilliant stuff. Well, that's excellent, and this is exactly why I wanted to get you two guys on, because I've heard you on United We Strike, and you really go into detail of the subject matter that you're talking about. The issue that we have, and we need this clarified over here, as we said to you before we went live, there was a vote over here in the Irish government, 111 politicians against 8 people against the legalisation of cannabis. Now, the argument that I had with this lady was the fact that she was saying, and obviously she was a person that suffered from this, so that's why it was very personal. And she said that I talked about the legalisation of cannabis, because I know now there is a difference between industrial hemp and the cannabis or the marijuana that you find out on the street. And the argument was, I was interested in saying it should be legalised for medical reasons, but if they want to legalise it for general use, then that's up to them, but I'm more concerned about the medical side. And she was quite adamant that it shouldn't be legalised because it's a drug. And I said to her, well, that means we better, make chocolate, alcohol, cigarettes, sugar, anything like that that's addictive, all that should be banned. And she didn't really quite get it, but then she did say to me, well, you won't get psychosis if teenagers start smoking marijuana early, it can affect them. It can affect their development stage. This is what she was saying, and this was her argument. So what we need to clarify first and foremost, before we go down of the kind of how it affects people mentally, if it does, is the difference between industrial hemp, cannabis, marijuana and cannabis. I assume it's the same thing. We've said earlier, again, before we went live, that marijuana was just a name that was given to cannabis because it sounds really bad. And that was the whole idea. And we're going to go back to DuPont and the fact that he actually, hemp was used up to the late 1800s. And it was in competition to what DuPont was doing. So obviously there must have been some brown envelopes at the time. And hey presto, it's made illegal. And it is a plant. And the pharmaceutical industries don't really want to go near it because they can't patent the plant. So they will just, they don't want people to know about the medicinal things that cannabis can do and hemp can do. So let's talk about the difference between both of them, and then we'll go into the effects. So whoever wants to take it first.
All right. Well, you want to jump in, Dean? I'm happy to expand on that.
Beautiful. I'd like to do something for the sake of the listeners as far as classifying what we're talking about. Just to make a simple definition of what's in cannabis, I pulled up the ever so trusty Wikipedia, which isn't always so trusty, but I wanted to read it off and then make some comments after I do. The THC, or more precisely, its main isomer, and it has it's a tetrahydrocannabinol.
You're quite low there, Dean.
Okay, is that better?
Okay, let me just turn you up this end. Right, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Okay, basically the THC is the principal psychoactive constituent in cannabis. And when it was isolated in 1964 by Weizmann Institute of Science, it was discovered that it's glossy, solid when it's cold, and becomes viscous when sticky and warm. And most people are aware at this point that it's smoked. It can also be eaten. Now, that is the psychoactive effect in cannabis. The other part, the CBD part, is not. And very often, we're mentioning that chocolate. And
wow, is that somebody's motorbike beside you?
That's a Harley Davidson.
We heard some kind of noise behind you there.
Okay, I don't know where it was coming from. Is it gone now?
Yeah, it's gone. It's like somebody's rode off on a motorbike.
Oh, those pesky extraterrestrials, yes.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
The CBDs, as they're known, the Cannabidiol, it's a non-psychoactive part. It's an active part that has a lot of different effects on the body. And I'll just, again, give you a definition. It is one of at least 60 of the active parts of the cannabis. In its major part that most people would associate with it is it has a relaxing effect or has a calming effect. And what is now legal in the United States is products that have CBDs in them. Now, you mentioned chocolate. There's also products out there that have oil or even shampoo, and it's put in, gum, for example. There's a company in the United States that puts out, it's called Can Chew gum. So they're starting to experiment in using products with the CBDs, the non-psychoactive part of it. So as long as we're clear on that part, we'll bring in indicus and sativa, the two parts of the two constituents here in this that we would like to talk about. But nobody or most people do not know what it's really doing to them. And we want to clarify that this is not a drug. It is an adaptogenic psychoactive herb. And when you reclassify it in this way, it becomes, more clear on how you can use it in a therapeutic way. So Am has a lot to say on the matter, so please come and jump in there, Am. Tell me what.
Thank you, Dean. Well,
can we just clarify something there? It was said to me during the week, and maybe you guys can clarify this. Somebody said that on Facebook to me that because not advertised, but I mentioned that the CBD bars came in because Dr. Rima sells the bars with CBD and there's very, very little THC. And she said you need the THC for the benefits of the THC to do your, to obviously cure whatever you need curing. For the benefits of it, you need the THC. And obviously Dr. Rima said, no, you don't. You need the CBD. What's your take on that?
All right, let's clear this up. It's only in the 1980s that the CBDs were finally, they started to recognize them. They've started breaking this down. A lot of the legitimate scientific research that could have and would have been done was repressed by political factions, which have nothing to do with the public good. They have to do with money and power and influence. But your body is by nature, by design, literally laced with endocannabinoid receptors. There are two particular groups, the CBD1s and the CBD2s. A lot of these are found directly in the brain. They run throughout the nervous system. You'll find them in the lungs, the liver, the heart, and the tissues. Now, this is by natural design, and we say receptors because these are places in the nervous system molecularly that the effects of the CBDs, we'll get to the THC in a minute, want to do that for you, cue in naturally. As Dr. Rima pointed out, they can cut down inflammation in the body. That's why they help with pain control. They also can help regulate the firing of the nervous system, particularly in the brain. Most people are overly wound up, worried, anxious, and all that has, regardless of how you rationalize or how you want to justify it to yourself, it has an effect on the neurophysiology. So in that sense, CBDs can be a balancing calmative effect. It's by natural design. They've isolated the pure CBDs. They're giving them to small children who were convulsive. They had all kinds of problems neurologically. None of the drugs could cure them, and because drugs don't cure, they just ameliorate symptoms, and they could finally, gently, none of the active psychoactive component, bring the nervous systems to quiet so these small infants and children could stop their convulsing. All right, CBDs have tremendous uses, but when we talk about marijuana, we're talking about CBDs and THC. Now, I want to point out, because, everybody's utopia hunting. Everybody according to their idiosyncrasies of their disposition, their personal inclinations, the very shaping influences of society, of cultural orientations. Everybody's looking for those things, those circumstances and or substances that they would like to believe can enhance the quality of their life. Okay, there are no panaceas. Our bodies are biological. Everything happens for a reason in the body. The problem is most people don't know the reasons and they're obscured. But the X factor in terms of dealing with the body is consciousness. Because consciousness directly affects the way tissue disposition in the body, it affects through the visceral organs, when we emote or feel things, even if we don't want to acknowledge them, even if we try to suppress them, all of these have an effect on the body. So, as I said, the healing art involves individual application, and you have to see the mind-body interaction to be fully effective. Now, for some people, just stabilizing. There's two sides to health, two approaches. The one that everybody has been hung up on is getting away from a problem, a pain, an imbalance. And if you've got a problem, of course you'd like to get away from it. But the other approach, the one that's much more in keeping with where we're at and what we need to move on, is how good can you feel? How safely and effectively can you enhance the quality of the vitality, the stamina, the mental clarity? Now, marijuana or cannabis, however you want to say it, is something that addresses both sides of that. But as I said, there are no panaceas. Anything, even seemingly benign substances, can be misused and abused. And it's very interesting that you've got hundreds of millions of people, literally, around the world using cannabis, and they don't really understand it. Nobody we talk about getting high or getting stoned, or, as Jimi Hendrix said, not necessarily stoned, but beautiful. What does that mean? What's actually going on when we ingest these substances? Why do some people have nice experiences? Why do some people suddenly feel threatened? And what is this talk about addiction? These are things that I'd like to clear up for your audience today, if we can.
That'd be great.
Shall I go on, or you want to jump in?
No, go ahead. Yeah, no, go ahead. That's great. That's what we want.
All right. There's two components to addiction. There's the physical component. Our bodies we've domesticated the animal, so to speak. We're not running wild in nature, unconsciously responding to the cueing factors of the seasons, the environment, the locality, just getting what's topographical and locally available. We've domesticated our animals. We've brought the little beast in, and we've taught it what to eat and where to eat and how to perform, and at least we've tried to. And the bodies are easily addictive. A little sugar is nice, but you don't find sugar growing in concentrated forms on trees. You don't find alcohol, which is concentrated sugar, growing on trees. You have to extract these things, put them in a assimilatable substance. Now, if the body can be easily thrown off kilter, the body is the dumb animal. The beast, so to speak, needs a good master or mistress, according to the gender. So, left to its own devices, if you start giving the body excessive amounts of sugar, caffeine, carbohydrates, all of these things have their various ways of interacting, the body becomes imbalanced, but it will start to crave it. A heroin addict does not want fresh fruits and vegetables. They want heroin, because once you get the body used to something, it doesn't know better. Even if it's detrimental for the body, it's ruining your health, it's slurring your intelligence, your ability to perceive and interact, you're still going to crave it. So you have a physical basis of addiction. Marijuana, cannabis, is not physically addictive. And in the same time, I could say caffeine is not physically addictive, or alcohol, but these things will change if you misuse them, if you don't understand what you're doing, what they're opening up in the body. They will cause imbalances that make you crave them. Marijuana, because of its CBD content, is very benign. But then we have the other factor of addiction, which is emotional. Okay? And the basis of that is most of us really don't understand what's going on within us. We are running around constantly worrying about ourselves. It's like, am I good enough? Am I smart enough? Can I survive? Will people think I'm attractive? Can I make the money? We're trying to justify ourselves. All right, so we're talking about addiction. Now, most people are trying to get away from what? Most people right now, and this can be resolved when you understand what's going on and you have the right perspective, the right techniques, fairly easily and completely, non-regressively, but right now most people don't know how to. Most of the planetary citizenry are in war within themselves between what they think and what they feel. And they're always filling in the difference between their thoughts and feelings with the rationalizations. Well, it's not that I'm not a happy person. It's just that, if I had more money coming in here, or he wouldn't be like this, or she'd be like that, or whatever. Who we're rationalizing to are the feelings we have that no matter how brilliant, even scientifically validated our thoughts may be, we still don't feel comfortable. Your feelings were conditioned into you as a level of response before your intellect developed. You're not born thinking. In order to think, you're going to have to learn to associate symbols in your intellect with objects, emotions, feelings, and the world in general. when you're born, but you are born feeling. You have responses. What are you responding to? Were you born naked, ignorant, helpless, dependent? You are doing unto nothing. Everything is doing unto you. And so we learn how to respond. This comes off of a number of gradients. And I'm making a quick survey of this. It'd be easy to explain it to you in great detail. But most people, once the feelings are in, at 1 or 2, you don't say, Mom, Dad, all this stuff you're laying on me. It's interesting, but, cool it for 20 years. I need some scientific proof. I need some second opinions. You're taking it in, and you have no way of screening it, deducing it. Later, a few years after that, as you start to become self-conscious, and you start to say, yeah, I'm me, I'm a boy, I'm a girl, whatever, that's when this war starts between what you see as possible. Gee, I'd rather do it this way, and how you've been made to feel you should respond. Now, when you ingest some THC through the cannabis, what you're basically doing, there's a number of things going on neurophysiologically, but you're basically altering the stimulus to response ratio. The intellect, the way we try to lock everything up, judge everything, works through a number of patterns, but one of them is a stimulus to response ratio. Everything that enters into your field of awareness stimulates you, or you wouldn't be aware of it. How do you respond? Between not being able to respond to something because you may be so shut down, so inhibited, that no, can't go there, can't look at that, or having your nervous system is open. You have full access. You can mix and match, combine it, pick it up, put it down to any degree you like. Most people are stuck right now operating on an irrational, illogical, and unreasonable subconscious level. Well, I know what you're saying makes sense. Okay, I can see the statistics, but I can't help it. That's just the way I feel about things. But we have this thing. We categorize ourselves. Now, all day long, we go through a lot of stuff. Maybe you feel slighted. Maybe you feel worried. You wouldn't consciously choose to pick on yourself with worry, aggravation, fear, doubt, confusion, anxiety. You wouldn't choose to make your life a living misery. But more often than we like, we do that to ourselves because the feelings are what are controlling that. We try to find disciplines, mental outlooks that let us at least keep that in bay, put it in some sort of workable social order, or hopefully get beyond that, expand the territory. Now, when you ingest some THC, the stimulus stays the same. Let's say you went out, you needed a table for a room in your house. And you were out looking, you didn't like it. Finally, you come across a beautiful table, handcrafted. You love everything about it, the look, the shape, the texture of it. You buy it, you take it home, and you are so pleased with your purchase. And you start, you eat at the table, you sit on top of it, you get under it, you put it in this position, that position, you even make love on it, whatever. For the next week or two, you can't walk by the room without congratulating, yeah, that table is great, goodbye. But after a while, all the stimulus that table can elicit to you has become categorized in your intellect. Well, it means this, it reminds me of that, it brings up these emotions. And then you stop becoming interested in the table. It's there. But let's say you were to suddenly ingest a good THC level from the cannabis. And all of a sudden you're sitting around going, wow, this is, I'm so glad I got this table. Isn't it beautiful? Wow, just feel the texture, the craftsmanship on this. All of a sudden you might be fascinated by the table again. Why? The table hasn't changed. The stimulus that table can elicit hasn't changed one iota. What's changed is the way the stimulus hits you. You have a category for responding to stimulus when you're in your, what you would call your normal state. Now you've altered the way that you perceive. Cannabis, through the THC, is a right brain actualizer. It actualizes spatial relations. Left brain is sequential. All of our thoughts. This, there, that, then, it means this, it means that. That's a way of organizing through associating our experiences with symbols and locking them into emotional patterns. But all of that pulls you out of the moment, it's into what you think it was, or rearranging it into what you think it might be. But when you suddenly move into the right brain, you move into a spatial relation. All of a sudden, you're doing what? You're paying attention. And by the way, every spiritual teaching on this planet can be boiled down to those two words, paying attention. You're in the moment. Now, your moment may be very small, or you may have the skill and the neurological advancement to expand way beyond what most people perceive. But you're in a space, and in that, the category for responding to the stimulus, in this case of the table, is not there. So all of a sudden you're paying attention to it again. If you stayed in this heightened state long enough, you'd form two categories. The stimulus of the table when I'm in my normal state of mind, and the stimulus to the table when I'm right brain activated. And again, you would lose your interest in the table. It wouldn't be so magical to you. Now, a lot of times when we go through our day, things are in the back of our mind. We don't know how to satisfy ourselves, to make closure with these things. They build up tensions. And everything you feel, regardless of what you may think about it or what you may avoid thinking about, affects you. It registers through the visceral organs and creates tissue disposition in the body. It can lock up the organs. The good news is that when you know what you're doing, you can turn this around and use it to enhance the body. But for most people, this is my day. All of a sudden, you move into a heightened state of awareness. But the first thing that is going to come up to you is this backlog of unresolved issues in your feeling body. It may overwhelm you. You have all these safeguards up because you've been taught to down-regulate yourself toward pain. You're a miserable, screwed-up sinner. You're supposed to spend your life suffering and repenting. You're not supposed to be too happy. Yeah, we understand you. Okay, you can have a little release. The absence of pain is not pleasure. But if you're in pain, physical, emotional, mental, and or spiritual, and you finally manage to get a break from that pain, and pain is a block flow of energy, whatever the level, then you're, oh God, thank you. Whew, what a relief. I couldn't have taken much more of that. But that's not pleasure. That's a release from pain. Pleasure is moving towards a more expansive, inclusive, integrated state. But when we try to move towards that, whatever is in the way, whatever is unresolved, has to come up and be processed. And if you don't know how to, you don't even want to acknowledge it because you're running on fear instead of understanding what's going on, then when you feel this stuff coming up, it disorients you from the normal categories, stimulus response categories you have for how you see yourself and your relation to the world and everything else. Then you may feel threatened. That can be easily resolved. But a lot of people use things not to move towards greater insight, greater awareness, but to try and get away from what they can't handle. And of course, the more you do that, the more you actually enhance the negative. So we have a substance that can, one part of it, the CBDs, can relax the nervous system, help them balance out, reduce pain, inflammation, and your immune system is hardwired into your nervous system. So anything that's going to bring more balance into the neurophysiology is going to help the immune system function better on a protective level. Then you have the THC, which can elevate and heighten your awareness. But if you're unprepared, undeveloped, don't know what you're doing, well, it's power, it's access, and power has no intention of its own. You can do something positive with it, or you can be destructive with it. It strictly depends on the level and the way your nervous system is operating. Now, love to get into more details and break this down for people. Hopefully we'll get some questions. But, Dean, you want to add anything to that mix?
Yeah, quite a bit. The common thought is that how cannabis can be used in place of drugs, and how people will perceive cannabis being used to help with them sleeping, with help with anxiety, help with eating disorders, and they can be targeted for sure. When Ann was talking about downregulating, I'd like to clarify for the audience that when we're targeting receptors, these are the nerves, if we're using ways of, in medication, for example, if you probably, Steve and Alan, you probably heard of the word painkiller. Have you heard of that term?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, that's one that I like to clarify. It's a pain suppressor. If it's killing something, it's destroying it. What the cannabis has the unique ability to do is, because they exist in the cannabinoids, they exist in our body, in our tissues, and it's a kind of lock and key where it releases or gives access to the body in responding to where it can be, blocked.
So are you referring to the cannabis? What way are you taking the cannabis to do this?
Well,
are we talking about medicinal cannabis? Are we talking about actually the smoking of it or the eating of it?
Well, it's a little different process when it's eaten because it goes through the digestive and it's going through the liver. The delivery system, when it's smoked, goes obviously through the lungs, and it's a quicker effect.
Yeah.
What I'm referring to here is that we want to make sure that you understand the difference of what is happening. What Am has so eloquently done is laid the foundation for everyone to understand that what we are dealing with here is that when you're taking this particular type of herb, it's a very powerful way of allowing you to get access to what could be considered pain or could be blocked. It also could help you facilitate a way of transitioning or allowing yourself to move through an emotionally distressful place or a anxious place. So people that are taking cannabis that are trying to ameliorate some of or get past symptoms that are even depression. Well, if you're too depressed, it's interesting how this works because of its adaptogenic properties. When you're using your brain more, you get more hungry. And you probably heard of that when people use cannabis, they can get what are referred to as the munchies.
Oh yeah,
we've heard of that.
We've heard of that apparently. Yes.
Well, if you can examine that for a moment, well, why does that happen? It's because the hypothalamus tells the body, okay, it's hungry. There's a pituitary hypothalamus operation there. But what is important is the brain starts to use up energy. And when it does, the glucose levels start to fluctuate. And when that happens, the body goes into the state of sensation, feeling hunger. Now, it's so important to remember that what we're talking about needs to be clarified for people that this herb has a very powerful effect to even things out. If you're too low, it can bring you up and activate the brain. And it can even help you with your focusing, your cognitive function. The other part is if you're too high, wound up, too stressed out, and it'll bring you down, it means that it'll bring you from being too wound up, too tight, too rigid. So, like with Chinese medicine, we deal with very commonly in our diagnoses. If something is out of balance, that means there's too little or deficient, or too much, too excess. And this particular herb is very capable of bringing the body to a balance point. Now, what Am was mentioning, very important, is that when you start bringing up the hidden, if you will, parts of ourselves, the subconscious, the things that we're afraid of. If when you're in fear, it means, and this is very important too, fear is a state of not understanding. When you're afraid, then there's an insistence upon your part to defend what you're not rationally able to you haven't overcome, you haven't been able to gain access to being in control. So when you take cannabis and you feel strange, because I've had a lot of patients that have told me that when they've tried cannabis before, it makes them feel weird, uncomfortable, and makes them, they don't like being out of control. Well, what's happening is their body's starting to open up and feel differently to what they're used to, what they're able to access before. And this is why when Am said this is a right brain activator, or it stimulates the right brain activity, it becomes more spatial and in the moment. So if you appreciate the table, the table hasn't changed. It's the same table, but your perception changes. So we want to make sure that when people are thinking about this very powerful and useful, in our opinions, herb for a variety of ailments, that it is going to bring up what is blocking you or what is in the way. So, Am, we can start to segue into medical conditions. But I was going to ask Stephen Allen if we have any listeners out there with some questions about what we're saying so far.
Oh, we love questions.
Okay, well, we have a chat room, and our listeners are aware that if they have any questions, they can bring them in. But before we do that, we will go over. Steve has a couple of questions here. One of them actually is not with reference to the subject matter, so you might want to answer that quickly if you can. But what we need to define is the difference between industrial hemp and the cannabis that's out in the street. You know, we can kind of touch base before we go down the medical side of the benefits of it. Let's talk about the two of them, because there is apparently a difference. I think the industrial hemp has a higher level of CBD, where the marijuana or cannabis that you find on the street has a higher level of THC. That's my understanding.
And it's a good understanding, and I think when you had Dr. Remo on, she really explicated that very nicely. The hemp is a cousin. It's a species cousin of marijuana, but it doesn't have the psychoactive component, doesn't have the THC. It's purely CBDs, which are very healthful to the body. They can be used that way. And again, there has to be some understanding of what you're taking, what its effects are, and what you're trying to achieve. You need to guide the body. The body doesn't know what to do with all these things we give it. You have to have a sense of how you want the body to respond. Our bodies can and will adapt, but in and of themselves, they're dumb.
Okay.
They need. But the THC, the cannabis on the street, people want to get high. What they want to do, they want to get away from where they feel stuck, and they want to open up. It's a right brain activator, and this is a big difference. A lot of people, not everything is for everybody to the same degree or at the same time. But when you say it's a right brain activator, first off, we're talking about the munchies. Now, Dean pointed out very rightly, the brain is the only organ in our bodies that extracts glucose directly from the bloodstream. Every tissue in your body that uses glucose requires insulin to help get it into the cells. The brain is the only organ that can directly extract it because it needs that for energy. If you are hungry and you suddenly switch into right brain activity, you come more into the moment, you're more sensual. That means your senses are more attuned, because a lot of times, people eat and they're shoveling food down themselves, but they're not really savoring it or enjoying it. And we can say the same about a lot of the physical activities. All of a sudden you're there. Now, if the brain suddenly needs that energy and you don't have the available glucose, you'll get what you call the munchies. If you are already fed, that glucose is available. And if people have this, I recommend various herbs that will facilitate that, then you don't get the munchies. You can certainly enjoy eating, your senses will be heightened, but you don't feel the compulsive need. If you ate a little bit and waited for a while till the glucose registered, you wouldn't feel hungry. But by the time you finish stuffing yourself, it takes a while for the body to just break down the glucose and make it accessible. That's why people feel called to overstimulate. It can make you, not only does it reduce, the CBDs reduce the inflammation and balance out the nervous system physically, but the heightened spatial receptivity can make sexuality, can make movement you become more involved in it because you can pay attention to it better, because you're not distracted trying to prove yourself or image yourself. All of these things are effects, but the difference is hemp is CBDs. Marijuana, depending on the strain, the degree of cultivation, is both CBDs and THC. These are not physically addictive. Nobody in recorded history has ever died from using cannabis. You can't say the same about cigarettes or alcohol. However, you can, if you use it and you're in a blind emotional space and you're trying not to get towards something more aware, more effective, more enhanced, but you're trying to keep at bay the unresolved confusions in the irrational part of your subconscious, then it can become emotionally addictive. Now, I mentioned that the stimulus-response ratio is one of the ways our intellects process. In other words, we have, part of the job of the intellect, we form associative emotional patterns. Now, the brain does not fully finish its development until our early 20s. It's coming online, and certainly in our teenage years, we are supercharged with hormones because whether you're conscious or not, basically on a purely biological level, we're shells to produce seed, to produce other shells. That's if you're unconsciously driven. And a lot of the patterns we've developed really revolve around that. So people talk about loss of memory. If your normal level of association through stimulus-response ratio is altered, it's not that you've lost memory, it's that you're not bothering to associate and label and categorize the way you normally would do. Actually, everything you've ever experienced is registered in your psyche, but not through this, just through this intellectual-based associative process that most people will call memory. And so there's some worry, gee, am I losing myself? Because most people have not been taught how to navigate enhanced perception. They've basically been taught to adhere to their own lack of understanding, their own fears. You know, to paraphrase, you can't serve two masters. You can't serve both fear and understanding. Well, who do we serve? Do we serve our fears? Most people do. Or are we serving our understanding? When we understand something, not just intellectually comprehend the possibility, but actually have full access. We see what it is, how it's constructed, its range of motion, how we can access it, we can pick it up, put it down, leave it alone, rearrange it to our heart's content. When you have that kind of awareness, then you have control.
Well, we always say if you understand your fear, then you lose the fear and you'll gain an understanding.
Absolutely. But the mechanism of fear, as Dean mentioned, is all fear, no exceptions to this. All fear, all doubt, all confusion, anxiety comes from two things. One, not actually understanding what you're considering. And two, thinking or feeling that you do have an understanding.
Yeah.
Now, the feeling part is more insidious. Thoughts, well, I think men should be this way and women should be this way, and if you want to be, religious, you should be this way. Well, we can look at statistics, we can look at patterns, we can take it apart. But the feelings, as I said, are irrational, illogical, and unreasonable. You have learned to respond in a particular way and you don't know why. The feelings control the physiology. No matter how many people are patting you on the back and giving you money, if you're uptight inside, it will affect the performance capability of your metabolism. So when you defend something that you don't understand, then you become desensitized, armored, coarse, somewhat gross, because we don't want to look at anything that would make us wrong because we're afraid of being wrong. We're insecure. So we lose something. The easiest way to get out of the trap of fear is when you're not understanding something. That is, when you're inwardly, to whatever degree, experiencing any degree of fear, doubt, confusion, or anxiety. You need to realize, at least unto yourself, there's something here that I don't yet actually understand. Now, you may have more facts and figures, better information than anybody else around you. And like it or not, circumstances might require that you got to go with what you know. But you will only get into that emotional difficulty within your own psyche when you stop seeing it as a range of motion to be explored and experimented with, and you start insisting, this is right. But if what I think isn't yet an understanding, and actually, obviously it isn't, because when I push on it, I feel, I feel uncertain, and I feel disoriented, and I don't have control, then what's missing? What haven't I become aware of yet? What do I need to see? You go from that defensive pattern of self-justification, where you're a target for your own self-righteousness, into a more open, receptive state. Again, you start paying attention. And in that state of being openly receptive, you are in the best position to see what's actually going on within and around you, so you can finally get the understanding that will give you the control. And you're absolutely right. You can't be both afraid and have understanding. Once you understand something, you lose the fear. Doesn't mean you don't have to be cautious, doesn't mean you don't have to handle it, but you no longer feel that vague sense of fear. But if I can just throw in for a moment in the work I've done, and I've developed something I call the process. Love to make the public aware of it, and love to teach the techniques to professionals, because I can only individually touch so many people. But in the second session of what I call step 1 of the process, there's 5 steps, and these are absolutely non-regressive. When they're done forever in a day, deals with fear. It deals with permanently, non-regressively breaking that archetypal lock in the back of the mind where you always feel threatened, so that you may bring about small fears by insisting on something you don't understand, but you will never again feel that, what we call the devil, the boogeyman, that deep sense of fear. If we are going to use substances that allow us not only to break the tension of our psyches or the exhaustion of our day, but allow us to expand, then obviously we have to have a sense of how to deal with what we haven't resolved in the past and get rid of it, resolve it, and how to move ahead. What spaces are we opening up, and how can these be used to enhance both our physiology and our mental functioning?
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, we have, I think there's an alleyway there we can definitely, a road we can go down and open up to even talk about, the whole ignorance of not opening up. But we do have questions that yourself and Dean, our listeners have asked. So we're going to pass you over to Steve, and Steve's going to hit you with the questions.
Well, I'll throw them at you. Whether I hit them with you or not is another story. I'm kind of going to ask these in reverse order, because I think the one that's just come in here from Mikey is kind of good, and it's kind of on topic about exactly what you're speaking of. But Mikey wants to know, please can you ask your guests to talk about another cannabinoid, tetrahydrocannabinol, THCV?
Well, we have talked about it a bit. It affects the stimulus to response ratio, and all of these things, in code. They're breaking down the various neurotransmitters that become activated by substances. They're breaking down the relays, the neurohormonal relays, where they cue in and how they affect the body. The THC, and again, there's a rhyme and reason to using any of these things intelligently, can open up space. What's the space? Is it just, wow, the sunshine, it is a nice day, because you're suddenly not picking on yourself and worrying about yourself. But it can also open up what we call spiritual space. And if you take the word spiritual and you put in the word awareness, you'll get a better understanding of what we're dealing with. We're talking about the fulfillment of human potential, which is more expansively, inclusively integrating your awareness. Now, this can bring it in. You can sit around just being sensually attuned. The music will sound clearer to you. If you're romantically involved or sexually involved, your senses may be heightened. But as I said, the problem for people is when they reach for a more open or intimate space, whatever has kept them from activating that space in themselves has to come up and be resolved before they can have clear access and really enjoy and see what's going on. And part of it is using it. Wow, if you have it for a moment, if you tripped into it, then it's accessible to your nervous system. Once you've experienced a heightened state of awareness, and the THC can certainly be used, and with the right techniques, and no mumbo jumbo, techniques ancient, modern, east, west, north, south, formalized or improvised, basically come down to focus and concentration. You're learning to focus and concentrate in different combinations through and from different levels of perception. But when you can access that, then the experiences, you start to open up to more space. What you're dealing with is spatial relations and energy frequencies. You can stay in the space of your senses. Most people don't explore them. They're very repressed. They don't know what to do with the discomfort that comes up. Or they can say, to hell with it. You know, you've been told if you have a good time, you're a bad person. People say, well, screw you, then I'm going to be bad and have myself a good time. So what's our reference to pleasure? Let's get down, let's get dirty, let's be nasty, let's be wicked. Oh, you're so bad. Instead of let's be up, let's be transformational, let's be evolutional, let's be fulfilled. Because we're hooked into an anti-negative circuitry which keeps us locked into the negative. When you see this, when you experience a more expanded state of energy, of energy frequency, spatial relations, even if you only could get there because of a particular substance, it's suddenly available to your nervous system. You've cued it in, and you are going to be haunted by the fact that your nervous system can now process at this level. You may make up all kinds of stories, say it didn't happen, that means this, but you're going to be haunted because once it's available, you're going to want to have access. The problem is we tend to confuse the state of mind that we're accessing with the person, place, thing, or situation. We say, gee, I had such a good time. Well, how come I had such a good time this time? I like it more of that. I'd like it to be better. Where did we eat? What music was playing? What positions did we make love in? And the funny thing is that the more we try to categorize it and lock into what we think gave us the advantage, the more we lose it. Because for a moment, we were out of the time sequence, left brain sequencing of the brain, and we were into the right brain spatial level. THC, the cannabis, that aspect of it, can access it. The CBDs in the cannabis are helping your nervous system quiet down and regulate. But there is some dumping that has to come up. If you suddenly feel uncomfortable, that didn't come out of nowhere. There's not some little demon with a pitchfork after you. This is unresolved stuff in the psyche. And anything that makes you in any way, to the slightest degree, or you can't get away from it, uncomfortable inside is never anything more than a defended misunderstanding. That's the good news, because once you understand that and you have the right techniques, you can permanently dismantle it. It's like unknotting the nervous system so that all that energy that's been locked up away from you becomes integrated and accessible for you to do what you want with it, whether it's to move into an expanded rate or just competently deal with what you have, but always being more aware in the moment. Dean, did you want to add some stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. And there was a good question. It's what Am is talking about, and what he was bringing in THC, it just under the category of THC. So not to make it confused, but it is the targeting the psychoactive part of this substance. And just wanted to help define that what Am is talking about is directing energy in a very conscious way. When we're doing something like acupuncture, whether you've had someone who's a good practitioner or someone who really doesn't know what they're doing, it's only as good as the consciousness or the one who is doing the process, who's doing this. So very often I'll get asked, is this appropriate? Is cannabis appropriate for insomnia? And I'll answer them, well, what is it that this patient, or why is it you're having insomnia in the first place? Then I'll answer you. And, very often the case we'll just pick on this particular symptom, where insomnia, you can't shut down the nervous system. And cannabis can be very useful in helping the nervous system adapt, more of the CBD properties, to being, able to let go or to relax more easily. That is a relief. It's kind of a sigh of relief. But what makes it so that your body integrates these changes and is lasting? So that's the overcoming part of healing. And when you're using a substance like this, like with so many different substances out there, people become dependent on them. And what we want is to direct the patient so they become independent. So very often, though, it's the other way around. You'll be given a pharmaceutical medication, and then when it doesn't work, we'll try this one. Or, you'll never get off of those meds. Well, what happens when people become addicted to drugs or medications and they have no solution? It becomes more complex. Antidepressants are a very big problem. They're not even antidepressants, really. They're depressant suppressants. And that's another one that I wanted to talk about in where cannabis has been helpful, in that depression is a matter of being stuck. It's energy that's blocked up. And in fact, the way the Chinese describe it, it's as if you can imagine your palm going into a wet clay and depressing, making a depression of your hand, and you pull it away and you see your hand. That's the shape of your hand. But it's slow. It's not moving. It's not free coursing, as we like to say, smooth movement. And depression is a lack in deep, ways. It's not being able to generate proper amounts of energy to keep the body functioning and being able to access pleasure. So what is useful in this case, in cannabis, is that because of its adaptogenic ability, it can keep you from getting too worked up over something, or to stress out, or to get to overemphasize. What we very often will see things that are petty. I mean, how many times do you know people that would just obsess over things that seem to be virtually meaningless? And the cannabis can be a tool, a very useful one, in getting people out of their mind, their heads, so that they can see that they're expending a lot of energy in unnecessary places. So I know that may be a little bit of an expansion of what the question was, but I'm wanting to make sure that you understand that we don't want to get fixated on the substances themselves. It's just their action on the body, so that we're able to use it as a useful tool in directing energy.
Okay.
Is that okay, Steve? And Ella?
Yeah, that's fine. We have, just lads, I'm just to let you know, we have about 20 minutes left, and there's a couple of questions that we have here, so we might need to be able to, we can blast through them, and then we can kind of go into the solution-based side of things. That would be great. So maybe, a quick answer on them, if possible, that would be great. I'll pass you over to Steve. Steve?
Yeah, this question obviously goes out to both of you now. Whoever wants to take it can grab it. But I heard before, and I do believe it may have been either this year or last year when we done a show. We actually had a show before, and we touched on the subject of cannabis. But we did have a comment in the chat box, and it stuck with me for a long time, because it was kind of one of those things that you put to the back of your mind, and now I can ask you guys. But it was said before that the high that you experience when using cannabis, that once the body experiences that, then the body can recreate that experience at will without using the cannabis. Is that correct?
It's a good question.
It is a good question. Yeah, once you've keyed into a fact that a range of motion is accessible to your nervous system, you can get there. But what was keyed in? In other words, and what's keeping you from operating there? That's what a lot of various spiritual disciplines, esoteric ones, the higher yogis, there's a number of systems that are meant to try and position your awareness in such a way as to experience this quality of energy. But with the cannabis, yes, you can do it without if you have the time. If you can sit on your tail in the tropics for a couple of weeks and just groove, just conserve energy, tank yourself up, wow, that's great. But if you're going like crazy in an urban megatropolis, trying to survive, overstimulated, medium mystically bound, all of these things, the cannabis can be a useful tool. It's a useful tool. It's a lousy master. Any substance can be intelligently used or stupidly misused. So yes, and the thing is, you want to learn what buttons are being pushed. Okay, this cued in neurotransmitters, receptors in the brain and the body, it's giving me access. Obviously, you couldn't do that if my body wasn't, and my nervous system wasn't capable of operating at that level. So what's going on? You want to access it, but then again, if you are really busy, you're tired, you understand the medicinal properties of the cannabinoids, and you use them intelligently, well, if you don't have that 2 weeks, you can break the grip of tension. Tension being a blocked flow of energy. Too much here, not enough there, creates stagnancy and degeneration. It locks you in. Then everything feels harder. I know I'd love to go on, but I don't want to. Let's get more questions.
Okay.
Yeah. You said it pretty succinctly. Just to add one other little piece is that when people can realize that they can feel differently, they become, more subtly aware that they're even uptight. And this is why, when you say I can access it. Am said go to, some beautiful tropical beach and spend the time just taking it in and letting go of the tension. Yeah, well, but we're not trying to get people to go. We all need a break, okay? But what he's saying is that when you're conscious of how to get into the place of being relaxed, you can take it or leave it. We don't have to necessarily use these substances to gain access, but they help us to get there more quickly if you're able to do it in a conscious way.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I mean, obviously, if you haven't got time to sit in a forest somewhere, getting to this level, it will get you there quicker. But I know a lot of people would have issues with smoking the cannabis, but if somebody wanted to, let's say, reach that kind of awareness, that heightened awareness, what would be the best delivery system for the plant?
Well, okay, again, you have to the art is individual application. Where is the body at? Where is the mind at? What kind of demands are being made on the energy? And what kind of time is there to really move? As Dean pointed out, when you ingest the cannabinoids through eating them or drinking them, then they have to process through the liver. It takes longer for them to come on, about an hour, but the high is more sustained, or that expansive space. But you have to be prepared to deal with it. We don't change our consciousness for no reason. There's some reason why you're changing it. You don't want to put yourself under the added pressure of changing your ability to relate to things, especially when this is new for you, and then being in a situation where you have to act like you think you're supposed to act. That just exhausts you and makes you uncomfortable. When you smoke it, you get it direct through the lungs, right in through the blood-brain barrier. You get an immediate activation. Of course, smoking it. There are vaporizers. There's different ways of separating some of the more harmful elements. But, anything you're going to use, if you're going to use caffeine, you're stimulating the adrenal system. You're not giving energy to the body. You're squeezing the sponge, so to speak. And if you don't replace it, you go up and down. You go up shorter, you come down because you exhaust yourself. Any of these substances process through the metabolism. Having a working, not where you understand every component and you can tell other people what's going on, that requires some professional skill. But having a sense of how these things affect your body and how they tie in with your particular needs and output, what you're ready for, what's the state of your physiology. Can't channel a lot of energy through a worn filament. Is your body ready once you become aware? Wow. I always tell people, you don't know how tired you are until you stop running the race. And we're in a race. I got to do this, got to be that, got to get this done, got to believe this, got boom, 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 boom. And you stop and you go, wow. And you start to feel where you are. So what do you have time for? You do want to protect the lungs, and that means if you're going to smoke it, there are nutrients, target-specific nutrients. We look at those for each person. What does the body need to compensate for the input? What does it need in input to compensate for the output? What parts of the metabolic system are being activated? What demands are being put on, and what nutrients have to be supplied? There are herbs that can also affect the quality of this. And if we get away from the model, you wait till you're symptomatic, and we say, well, how good can you feel? How safely and effectively can we look at the output of our body and give it those things, not drugs, that will enhance its performance capability, nourish it? Then you get a whole different process. This is an art form, and it's an elegant one that the public really, it should be basic to everybody. Gene?
Okay.
Yep.
Sorry, go ahead. I'll just check and see. Do we have more questions there, Steve?
Oh, yes, we do.
Okay, listen, guys, we're going to have to quick fire the questions over to you. If you could give us a one-sentence answer. I know it's very, very hard, but if you could try to sum it up.
There'll have to be a part 2.
Rock and roll.
I think we're going to have to do a part 2 with both of you, but for now, if we just quick fire the questions over to you, and if you both give us your opinion on them, that'd be great. Steve, over to you.
Okay, I believe it was you were speaking of awareness there earlier on, and when you were speaking of awareness, Agent, one of the long-time listeners, had a question, and he was wondering, can you ask your guests their opinion on DMT, dimethyltryptamine, largely found in mushrooms, and DMT being known as the spirit molecule and the way into higher awareness?
That's not going to take one sentence.
that requires, again, we're dealing with different substances and how they affect the body. And even if they're positive, are you ready to process these things? The spiritual molecule, that's a little wishy-washy. In other words, anything that's going to enhance performance capability. Dean was talking about depression. You've never, on a physical level, you've never met anybody who's depressed who's full of physical vitality. They may be 6 shades of crazy, but they won't be depressed. Depression is, as Dean pointed out, being stuck. There's life going on all around you and about you, but you can't get out to interact with it. You're stuck. If it's not just on a physical level, you're stuck in an emotional pattern where you feel locked up. Now, if you give the body something you need, the DMT, then you're changing access, but you need to learn to use it. Dean, go ahead, jump in on that.
No, it was, since we have so many questions, I want to be able to address that in the next show. And Alan, I think you'll probably call us back and set it up next month.
Yeah, we'll have to sort something out. We'll definitely do a part 2. But let's try and, because we're trying to get through the questions for the listeners. So, Steve, go ahead. Okay,
lads, this one came in from Ty earlier on, and it's not actually in relation to cannabis or hemp or any of that, but it is. She wants to know: is there any substance in nature with similar effects and good effects as hemp, which are far more reachable, of which little is being published? And she goes on to say she's kind of thinking of the turmeric, and maybe you may know other substances.
Yeah, and turmeric is an excellent anti-inflammatory. It has benefits to all kinds of issues in treating microbes and a variety of different bacteria, immune system support. Okay, if she's trying to draw a parallel between that and cannabis, is there any other herb that's like cannabis? I would have to say, not quite. I mean, if I won't want to. There are calmatives. In fact, something like chamomile tea, very simple. It's a flowering herb, and it has a very calming effect. Now, it calms in a different way. It doesn't use CBDs or THC, but it can be useful. And I've even had patients where a simple solution like magnesium and chamomile before bed has resolved insomnia. Now, or to a great degree, reduced the harshness of the symptoms. But in case where we're talking about is the turmeric have the same effect as cannabis, if I'm understanding the question, it's a different effect. It's not the same type of thing. And that's why Em and I have so much respect for this herb, is because it has far-reaching benefits for people that are coming to us with very difficult cases. So please, thank you.
Yeah, I believe what you may have been referring to is the fact that we've seen from research that turmeric is very beneficial, say from what research has shown in cancer care, curing cancer, or at least dealing with cancer. I think she was kind of wondering that would there have been some herb that was kind of say like turmeric that would give the same awareness, or the same kind of not even the awareness as say the cannabis.
You're not talking about awareness. Turmeric has nothing to do with awareness. It has to do with physiological adjustment. And, there are no panaceas. People can elicit the same symptomology for very different reasons. They can have very different symptomology, and yet the same substance can be of benefit. To take it out of the dark corner or the wishful thinking corner, this is practical. The body is, as I said, biological. You have to understand what these are providing. Anything that reduces inflammation reduces pain. Pain is a contracting element. Pain is a blocked flow of energy, creates stagnation. Pain, physical and emotional, shuts you down. Pleasure is opening up to a more expansive state. And when you're talking about substances, no, cannabis is unique in the combination of properties it affords. But we're talking also about intelligent use, whether it's just for the body because it will help, or whether it's for equalizing out the nervous system, or whether it's for conscious expansion. All of these things have different effects on the body, and it's time to understand them so that you can become like your own artist. Here's a palette full of possibilities, colors, that you can put on in different ways, different shadow, different light, different focus, different emphasis. But it helps to understand what each of these ingredients, these aspects can bring to the table, and what happens when you combine them. So you want to learn to use these things. Don't just wishful thinking, is this the magic ingredient? No such thing.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, with I told you at the start of the show about this lady that I had a big debate with regarding the addiction, and just to sum that up, so what you're talking about, it's not really a physical addiction, it's more of an emotional addiction.
It can be yes, it's definitely not a physical addiction. If anything, intelligently used, it could help you with various physical addictions where the body's become imbalanced and locked into that imbalance. But emotional addiction is avoidance. And you're not trying to use something to feel better about yourself, but to feel less bad about yourself. And if you don't know what you're doing, you find this, you suddenly find a form of relief. And, over there is this person that you normally don't feel comfortable with yourself. You feel agitated. Life isn't good, and you find some way of breaking the tension of that, not understanding what's happening and not having developed the tools or the guidance to know how to finally resolve it so it's not an issue. you'll become locked into an avoidance pattern. Okay, and that's where it can become emotionally addictive. When people do things that break the grip of the way they normally see things, even if the way they've come to see things is that, yeah, I guess I got to struggle and I'm supposed to be miserable, and and they don't know why. And you do something that it suddenly changes their ratio of response. They can see things in a different way. What do they do with these things they've been running from, that they've been willing, out of ignorance-generated fear, to subvert their lives to trash themselves for? And in that sense, just getting away from something can become addictive. But this is misunderstandings on the part of a person using it. It's not that everybody that does this will suddenly have that. It depends what's unresolved in the subconscious levels, which should be fully accessible, but for most people, unfortunately, right now they're not. Okay. So it can be, anything can become emotionally addictive.
Okay. Well, listen, we have 5 minutes. So between yourself and Dean, with the whole idea that more and more countries are beginning to legalize cannabis, especially we see it in the States, but over a couple of countries in Europe as well, or just outside Europe. Uruguay is one. They've legalized it there. Just give us a very quick synopsis on why you think that's happening now.
Well, we're starting to grow up. I call it the problem of space age technology versus Stone Age emotions. Our brilliant, innovative leaps through technology, science, have opened up a lot more to us, but we're still trying to adjust ourselves from these primitive patterns that we've been dragging around since the Stone Age. But more and more people are becoming aware. And as they do, the real thrust of life is fulfillment of your potential. That's an expansive process. You're either going where you want to go, or you're getting rid of whatever seems to be in the way of your progress. And as people become exposed, even if they haven't intellectually understood through media, through technology, through architect, through the way we structure things, they want more. And people are coming online. The problem is they're carrying a lot of old, unresolved issues that are making everything seem imbalanced. And this goes from the bottom of the food chain right up on top to the corporate level. People may be brilliant or skilled or disciplined in one particular focus or area of their lives and perform admirably, but they're seldom psychologically integrated to where they can leave that discipline or bring in everything else and apply it through that. They only know the one thing. But right now, people are waking up. I would like to feel good.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Sorry,
okay, Dean. And your quick synopsis on how you think why these countries are beginning to, especially in America, beginning to legalize it. Are we beginning to grow up and realize? Dean?
Did we lose him?
Hello?
Oh, there he is.
There he
Dean.
is. Good.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to break it down into 3 sections. One is economics, 2, a medical system that's not working, and 3, as Em just mentioned, how we are becoming aware. We are growing up. First on the economics. Cannabis is not a moneymaker for the pharmaceutical industry. And with a medical system that has been devoid of bringing in, as Ann mentioned at the beginning of the program, of bringing the beneficial side or with the starts of the research in the 1960s and the awareness that these substances were in this plant, they were suppressed. They weren't given. We weren't educated on what it was really doing. So a medical system that is poisoning people, a medical system that is basically run by businessmen and the intentions, people are becoming, the third piece, aware that they're not being empowered with the knowledge of such substances as cannabis. So the laws are starting to change because there's enough people, like for example, I live in the state of Colorado, the first one to legalize cannabis. And people talk about it around here like it's, going to the grocery store and picking up a dozen eggs. I mean, it's very accepted out here. And I don't mean to, there are quite a few people that still think it shouldn't be legalized. But this is a matter of becoming aware of its benefit. And also, Washington State has made it legal. So, and there's, I think, 17 states now that want to put it on the ballot for making it legalized. So you see, when it starts to rain, it starts to pour.
Yeah, definitely.
Go ahead.
No, that's okay. I was just going to say we're going to have to finish up, I'm afraid, chaps. Well, listen, thanks a lot for coming on. We're going to have to do a part 2 because there's so much to talk about. But a big appreciation for coming on. Now, you two can be caught next week. We're going to have the United We Strike Radio Marathon, and you two obviously have a regular spot on there. And for the people who you're normally on about 10 o'clock, that's 10 o'clock GMT time. And if you want to listen to Dean and you can pop over to the United We Strike website, or you can actually click on come out to OYM and listen to the United We Strike player at 10 o'clock, and you'll hear Dean and that's your normal slot. But I'm going to pass you over to Steve, and Steve will get all your contact details, websites and stuff like that, and then we'll pop into a musical break.
Okay, yeah, lads, it's been absolutely fantastic information. There's a lot of comments coming in on the chat box saying that it's really, really relevant information, and all good positive comments. So you've done yourself a good service this evening, and hopefully people will tune in next week to the UWS Marathon. But in the meantime, can you maybe, if you want to go first, and then Dean, just give us the contact information, if you have a website where people can find out more.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, you can invite you, please. Check out my website. It's www.lifegame, Lifegame, www.lifegame.com. And you'll find a lot of things there. You'll find an archive of some of the radio shows we do, State of Mind, Quality of Life, Evolving the Species. But you also, if you, in the middle of the page, you'll see something called The Process. And I've been talking about that a little bit. You'll find an outline of it. Also check out the Geigers. 3 ways of psychologically foolproof ways of gauging your inner state, so you can never become confused, or whatever delusions you have, you can start to uncover them. They're just a summary. There's more there. There's some extra from my most recent books, Cruising the Epiphany Highway, Volume 1 and 2. You'll find some audio recorded excerpts you could listen to, a few samples from the book that are written out. And I started a podcast library on health, on consciousness, on the art of intimacy. There's a 2-part introduction. And you'll find a place to love to hear from you, love to know what you're thinking and what your questions are. You'll find a way to connect with me on my website.
Brilliant. Dean?
Thank you, Am. Well, it'd be hard to find two men on radio talking about health and medical issues and becoming aware that have more fun than Am and I. So we really love to have questions. We cover things that are not talked about typically in our shows. Biological dentistry and hormones is one other example. We talk about cannabis, of course, but we cover all kinds of things and how it relates to being aware. And that's what healing is about. So if you're interested in contacting myself, just go to Accutone.com. That's ACUTONE.com. And yes, I have the archived shows there as well. You can listen to them commercial free on the YouTube link. And has, of course, my book, Accutone, and my clinic information. And we will just look forward to hearing from both you, Steve and Alan. You do a great service, and I hope to hear more about what you're offering, including the United We Strike show, too.
Yeah, no problem at all. Well, we hope to be doing quite a bit more with OYM, fingers crossed. Okay, guys, just stay there with us for a minute, and we're just going to go off to a musical break, and we'll be back after this.
This is Open Your Mind Radio on OYMradio.com, UnitedWeStrike.com, and PeoplesInternetRadio.com.
Yes, it is, and thank you for listening. That was a very, very short version of Frankie Goes to Hollywood, Relax. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant information from the two lads there. They've just agreed that they would love to come back on. They had a great time.
Excellent. Yeah, part 2, we'll have to do that in a few weeks' time, definitely. Now, the reason why we're going against time, just a few things, a few announcements that we have to make, as usual. As we say, the CBD chocolate did come in. If you go to the front page of OYM, on the front page, you'll actually see a photo there. Don't forget to go over to Facebook and give us a like, and go on to our Facebook page, because we do post a lot of stuff up there as well. So if you want to do that and become a friend or a like, whatever, pop over there to facebook.com/OYM Internet Radio. Or you can just do a search and find us. Now, also last week, we had the pleasure, I had the pleasure of being interviewed by Mick from Liffey Sound FM, and myself and Mick had a great chat. You can go over to liffeysoundfm.ie. But if you want to listen to, I think the podcast is going to be up there. Mick posted that up on his Facebook page. But if you want to hear it also, you can go over to our YouTube page, OYM YouTube page, and you can listen to the interview that myself and Mick did on Liffey Sound FM. Doing a great job over there, Mick. And we had a great chat. We covered so many things in an hour. It was quite a lot of subject matter that we discussed there. So check that out as well. Now, as I mentioned there, the United We Strike Radio Marathon is on next Saturday, and Am and Dean are going to be on. I think 10 o'clock GMT is normally their time when they're on, but the marathon runs all day, so if you want to pop in and pop out, or you're doing something in the background and you just want to listen, the first part of the marathon is in German with Detlev, Wake News in Switzerland, and then I'll take over around 6 o'clock, do the producing, and then myself and Steve will be on at 7 to half 7 is normally our time, for half an hour. And we have an idea of a guest that might be coming on if she's available. So we'll see what we can do. If not, we'll arrange something else or have a chat anyway. The podcasts are always available on the United Strike Marathon anyway, if you happen to miss it. And it's all about getting information out. That's what it's all about. Now, also on Saturday, just to let you know that myself and Steve actually met up with a TI. Now, we're not going to mention any names, but you've obviously heard the term targeted individual, where we met up with the TI on Saturday, and we had a very good chat with this lady who was going through a hell of a lot of things in her life regarding being a TI. We didn't take any video or do any interview because she just wanted to have a personal chat and talk about a few things. So it was quite an interesting interview, wasn't it, Steve? For you anyway, because it's new to you.
It is new to me. I mean, it was brilliant to be there and just to hear the flow of conversation between Alan and the lady who we met up with. I mean, it was a lot of the stuff that she spoke of. I mean, look, I've heard of TIs, I've heard of targeted individuals. I haven't done a lot of research into it. It's not my kind of area of, I won't say, it's not really my area of interest at this moment in time, but I'm sure in the fullness of time I will get to research and delve into it. But just to hear the flow of conversation, I mean, this lady, when Alan said, like, she's going through hell, from what she was telling us, she's definitely going through hell, and I could barely begin to imagine what it must be like, and the fact that there are more targeted individuals across the world, and even there this evening, before I come up, I was just checking out something on the internet, and even Jesse Ventura, I think he's a governor, or was a governor for one of the states, he done a show on TIs as well, where they wanted to know more about this, the technology and all. But it's horrible. It really is. I mean, to think that someone can do this to you without your will, it's absolutely horrifying. As I say, I did learn a lot yesterday. I was fairly quiet yesterday because I didn't want to really interrupt the flow with silly questions. But there was a lot of great information. She knew a lot of stuff that Alan knew. Alan knew a lot of stuff that she did, and it was mind blowing. And I really feel that anyone who's living their life as a TI, it must be horrible. And if there is a God or a creator, then maybe he or she or it will intervene and do something about this, because it's just ridiculous. It's crazy. But I say maybe at a later stage, the lady who we did interview, who we did have a chat with yesterday, she may agree to an interview, And I can safely say, if she does, it'll be mind-blowing. It really will.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Well, we'll see what happens if she doesn't want to do it, but we're just learning more about TIs. Now, as I said, we're going to have John Anthony Hill, Mudeeb, on the show, so if you want to pop over to The Way Home or FaceTheFire.net, the website, The Way Home or FaceTheFire.net, it's a PDF, and he recommends that all the listeners have a read of that before he comes on to understand where he's coming from. I'm going to try and get a hardback copy of it. And again, as I say, tomorrow night, I don't know who's on with Vin at the moment. Vin hasn't told us who's on with him, but I'm sure the show's going to be very interesting. Tomorrow night, Monday night, every Monday night, Mick does be on from Liffey Sound FM, so don't forget to tune in to Mick. It's 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock. He covers a lot of topics, good information there, so don't forget to pop over tomorrow night if you're knocking about on the internet, if you're on your computer, 9 to 10, liffeysoundfm.ie is the website. You can listen live. The podcast does be available after. I think Mick has a Facebook page. He puts it on up there. Right, next week, fingers crossed, we're hoping to have a pre-record with Mark Pazio. If you remember, we had Mark Pazio on live there not so long ago, a few weeks ago, and Mark said to us after the show that he enjoyed it so much he'd more than happy to do part 2, but unfortunately he can only do a pre-record. So we're going to track him down during the week and pick a time, probably Wednesday night. We'll do the pre-record with him, and then we'll have that for next week. That's the plan of attack, and we'll probably expand on what we talked about before on the show. So that should be good. We have a couple of more guests that we're aiming to have on as well, and we're chasing a few people. Keep sending the emails in. There's people sending links in to us. Thanks again. Just for the information that you're sending in, it's great. We'll get it out there as for registered users. And again, let us know what you think about having the group of 5 people with cancer. We don't know whether that's going to work or not. We don't know whether we'll get the support. We don't know about the finances. But look, we're going to put it out to the universe anyway, and we're going to see if we can help 5 people who probably have no other choice and haven't been given any other choice from the doctors. So, Dr. Reamer is up for doing the project. We approached her about it. She said, yeah, no problem at all. She's happy to give her time free for consultations, video diary, and then we just want to get out to the general public that you can basically cure your cancer without having to go down the pharmaceutical route, as you all know, because the evidence is out there. There's so much evidence out there and people have been doing it. So that's the general idea. Anyway, we better go. We have to go. So take care of yourself. Have a good week. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week. And don't forget the marathon on Saturday. Take care. Bye-bye. This is Alan James signing off.
Right, good luck. Get out the door. Don't come back. He's gone. Okay, from myself, Stephen George, a very good evening. Thanks for tuning in. It was an absolute blast. I learned loads and a lot of good information on the chat as well. We will hear you again. Well, you'll hear us again, I suppose, on Saturday for the marathon. So if you're knocking around, do tune in for that. And there we go. It's just Vin on PIR tonight. He just communicated back to us there. So just Vin. But it's always interesting. The man with the silky smooth voice. Anyway, catch you all again next week. Take care.
Open your mind.